Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films Draft Talk. Real special day for me. One of the people who inspired me, guys may have heard me say this on the channel before. When I started a YouTube channel, I watched Coach Evans, Sip to Tally. I watched Engraven, and I watched today's guest. My guest today took me a while to convince him to come on the show, but he is here with us. One of my favorite YouTubers. Strongly urge you to check out his channel. Watch his draft stuff. It's all been good, but we're here to talk draft. Got him on the show, the mysterious Mr. Edgar Allen. EA, how is it going, man? And thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, what's up, Jason? Man, I'm excited to be here. Very glad, very thankful that you are having me on, and I can't wait to talk to you about the draft, talk with you about the draft.
That's right. And we have on your picture, that is Maestro.
That's Maestro. Yep, my chocolate lab Maestro. That's my best man.
So how old is Mr. Maestro?
He's 3. He's all puppy.
That's the same age as my dog. He just turned 3. As far as we know, we rescued him, so we don't have we got his. It's not a birthday; it's like his welcome home day or whatever. But he just turned 3 the other day, Mr. Marshall. So
his name's Marshall.
His name is Marshall, yes, and he's very playful. So he's in that playful stage. He's got a little lab in him too, man. So he's hot all the time. He's just hot, and he loves the water around here. Loves to go swimming. So that's my man right there. So EA, getting into this draft. Before we trade scouting reports, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the first round, the strategy here, and also just if we draft a lineman with the first pick. What I want to know is, does this guy have to come in and play right away? Or could this be a situation where we groom a left tackle to take over for Ronnie in 2025? Or should we target a right tackle that can compete this year with Faalele, maybe McCary? How are you looking at this first round overall and specifically with the offensive tackles?
I'm back and forth on the tackles in the class. I'm not sure I like any of them that are around our range. If I had to pick one, let's say out of Kingsley, Jordan Morgan, and Tyler or Guyton rather, those are the 3 I think that kind of get tossed in together. I would probably go Guyton. I think they would ask them to start at right tackle right away. But my sense lately, I've been back and forth where I've had a sense they might just as well draft a second round tackle, because I think part of what they're after is a left tackle next year. Not that they don't want somebody to come in and make an impact. I just have a hard time imagining one of those tackles being one of the best players available at 30.
They're going to get snatched up pretty quick. At least the top, 6, 7 of them. And I've seen Guyton fall to us, and there's reason for him to fall because of his lack of experience and transitioning from tight end and coming from TCU and going to Oklahoma. But I definitely could see a second-round pick at tackle. I mean, shoot, I could see the first 2 picks being tackle. Fans might not like that, but you could get yourself a right tackle for the future and a left tackle for the future and take advantage of this depth in the draft. So, Kingsley, Suamataia, Jordan Morgan. I have a feeling both of those guys will be there for us. Tyler Guyton is a guy that I have as well, EA, a little bit ahead of those guys. He's 18th on my board overall right now, where I have Morgan and Suamataia in the 27, 28 range. So for me, I mean, if the quarterbacks go, those would be like the last resort. If you want to address tackle with your first pick, those will be my guys.
What's your sense about where any of those would start, or if they would start in the first year?
I think that Jordan Morgan is an interesting case because I'm not sure that he can stick on at tackle. One of the guys that you brought to me that we're going to talk about today kind of gave him a hard time. And it was a power speed, mostly power combo. He went up against a technical guy like Leatu Latu and handled Latu and Gabriel Murphy and those UCLA rushers. But Morgan is the kind of guy that would struggle with power and length at the next level. And, I'm not an arm length a stickler for arm length, but he is kind of short armed for a left tackle at 32 and 7/8 inches, under 33 inches. And when I saw him against the bigger tackles in college, he seemed to struggle with it. Suamataia, EA, I think he's a year away. He's got all the physical skills you want. I'm a little worried that his feet, his feet are a little slow to play left, but I'm not 100% set on that. I think he's a lock and play right tackle as soon as 2025. But both of those guys, different stories, different type of players. I had a really hard time ranking them on my board. EA Morgan versus Suamataia.
Yeah, I was shocked by I don't know about shocked. I'm very surprised at how poor the run blocking is. It's some of its experience, but some of it has to do, I guess, with scheme and what's going on as far as a college offense is throwing a lot more these days. But I just seem to remember there being a lot better run blocking at the tackle position. I think Kingsley in particular is just very poor. Very poor in terms of not just hand placement, just using his hands. I was somewhat shocked at that. A guy as young as he is, and that should be considered, I suppose. But he's been a tackle for 2 years, right and then left, and he does not know how to down block.
It's kind of strange to me because you see power in his game. He's a powerful player, mountain of a man, but yeah, he does struggle with his blocking. I wonder if some of that's inexperience, and then again, I wonder if some of it is the feet that I saw. It's not smooth all the time. He looks like he's athletic, but his feet still have a little bit of heavy footedness to it. And EA, I want to ask you about this philosophically. When it comes to a left tackle, I don't get overly concerned with, okay, can they block in a power scheme? Can they block in a zone scheme? Like for me, the left tackle, I just want you to protect the quarterback. And if you're above average at protecting the quarterback, I think we're good. It's the other four positions on the line that I really try to put scheme into it. Are you the same way, or do you think I'm underestimating the value of a left tackle who can run block as well?
That's no the first thing. The first thing I look for, and unfortunately, sometimes it disappoints me because I really, really like the left tackle at Oklahoma. But the first thing I look for is, can they keep up? Can they keep up outside? And doesn't matter like the technique. Do they have the athleticism to keep up outside? Is the very first thing. And then used to be you could cross those guys off and put them to right tackle, but I don't. It's not really. It's pretty much the same deal at right tackle now.
Yeah, the one thing that gives me having Lamar Jackson is the one thing that gives me hope with some of these right tackles, because if you want to go ahead, EA, and burn the edge, and that's your go-to move and run past Lamar Jackson, okay, you might blow up the initial read or what have you and move Lamar Jackson's feet, but you're giving him a clear lane to roll out right where he can do damage with his arm. If nothing's there, he can scramble for a few yards, which could turn into a big play at any time with Lamar. So like with some of these, the old cliche where your right tackles are the ones that struggle with speed rushers, I worry about that a little less on the Ravens personally because of Lamar's skills.
I wonder how much the coaches and the front office consider that when they look at a guy like Jordan Morgan or any of these tackles in the class. They consider what Lamar does to assist or aid these guys,
Right.
in terms of bringing them along, being a little bit more patient in bringing them along.
I think it would help if we could find a left tackle with a really strong anchor, because I don't know what you've noticed in all your film studies during the Lamar era, but it seemed like when Lamar lost his trust in Ronnie Stanley being able to anchor and re-anchor, he got a little happy not knowing what was happening on his blind side. So I don't know if you noticed that or if that's a pattern that you saw, but I think that Lamar could have hung. There were plays that Lamar could have hung in there a little bit longer if the left tackle had a stronger anchor.
That I have not noticed that, but I haven't watched as much Ravens stuff the last year, so that I'll take your word for that. Yeah, he's that's the other thing with Morgan. I think if we get the ball out quick, generally he's okay. When I watched him at UCLA, they got the ball out quickly. I think he's going to struggle holding up because Lamar does tend to hold the football. I mean, it's a double-edged thing, I suppose, because Lamar can make stuff happen regardless. But
very true. So, aside from the offensive tackles, what do you think? How do you think the draft's going to fall to us? I mean, it's always so hard to predict, but is there a one position that's going to be, do you think, staring us in the face is, all right, all the tackles are gone, but we have our choice from these kind of guys, or maybe it's a particular position or a couple of players that are sticking out to you?
I think they're going to go wide out, Jason. I don't think they're going to view these tackles, even if they are on the board there, Morgan and Kingsley. I don't think they're going to think of them as valuable as a wideout. Now, I'm not sure who that would be. What do you think? Do you think they would go wideout in the first round?
Now, for those watching, we didn't talk about this before the show. And EA, I actually tweeted something out a couple of days ago, the exact same thing.
Huh.
Because when I look at the draft and I'm starting to look through mock drafts and I'm looking at team needs and all this other stuff, Mina Kimes has done a nice series on her channel on YouTube where basically she brings somebody on and gives them the choice between two players and they have to pick. But basically, what it's helped me with is like, all right, what do these teams need? You know what I mean? They're between a corner and an edge rusher, or they're between, an offensive tackle or an interior lineman. And the combination of that show and all the mock drafts I see, these wide receivers keep getting pushed down, EA. Like, AD Mitchell is there sometimes at 30. And if he's not there, then you'll have your choice of Lab McConkey or Worthy, or maybe you like Ricky Pearsall. Maybe you like Troy Franklin. Keon Coleman is a guy that I think would fit really well here. So I keep seeing that and thinking, man, is it going to be corner maybe? Maybe a Kool-Aid McKinstry or a Wiggins drops to us, or maybe a wide receiver, because going through the Ravens smoke grapevine, which is always take with a grain of salt, is this Bateman stuff where he's taken down some of his Instagram affiliations with the Ravens, apparently. There was a report that he out there, just a rumor that he had requested a trade a year ago and was not traded. So what it's got me thinking is, EA, we may not probably not going to pick up his fifth-year option anyway. Maybe they look at this as, look, this is a loaded draft at tackle. We can find our developmental guy in round 2, let him sit behind Ronnie, and he'll be ready for 2025. And let's pick up another weapon to complement Zay and Mark and Isaiah. Isaiah likely he can break in this year under Bateman, or maybe Bateman gets traded on draft day, a player for player type swap.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that about Bateman. I would not. I mean, I don't think they're going to pick up his 5th year. I could be wrong about that, and perhaps that's what he's responding to. Perhaps they reached out to his agent, or he's been made aware that that's not going to happen, or not likely to happen. I don't know. Who knows what's going on in his head? But I think, I'd hate to see them. Truthfully, I'd hate to see them draft a tackle like Morgan or Kingsley, because I don't think they're as good as, let's say, in terms of first-year impact, I don't think they're as good as some of the wide receivers that are projected to be there. I think I like the kid from Yale. If you can get him in the 2nd round, I think the level of competition, of course, that is not to be underestimated. That is a big deal. So you'd have to be sure about that. But yeah, and then I think it's a tough draft, Jason. It's a tough draft because they're going to be nervous about not getting a tackle. I'd like to think they wouldn't, but I have a sense that that's a big deal.
Now, see, EA, I'm a Guyton fan. I believe that 2 years of playing tackle and you can move and mirror like he can. Like that's a guy that I would want on the team for 5 years, because I believe that you can't teach his being 6'8" and moving like he does with his long arms. I like Tyler Guyton.
I would take him too, Jason. I think so too. He's going to struggle a little bit, different things in his first year. But I like how balanced he is. He's very difficult to go through. I would take him if he was there.
So what I'm thinking, EA, is to move up 3 or 4 spots. If you look at the old JJ chart, that'll cost you about your third rounder. So if he dangles there, the Ravens are picking at 30. If he's there at 26, 27, something like that, I like him enough compared to the other tackles that I would say, look, let's trade up. We got an extra 4th rounder for Morgan Moses, so we pick it 93 and 113. So if we have to give up 93, we still got 113, 20 spots later. Let's go up and get the guy that fits, need and the player for the right spot. So that's an idea I've been floating around. And also the person that you were, the prospect you were referring to, Kieran Amagaji out of Yale.
Yeah.
I mean, EA, 6'5", 323, 36 and an 1/8 inch arms. I was sitting there probably like you watching him play against Holy Cross and some of these smaller schools, and he really wasn't challenged, but he definitely looks the part. I mean, I think he was probably the toughest projection in the draft, just like a Kyle Duggar was a couple of years ago, where it's just like, okay, well, he's dominating. This is what he should look like, but you still have that, indecision because you really don't know. And plus, he's playing one of the toughest positions of football at left tackle.
Right. Yeah. He did play guard in 2020 or 2021. He was a left guard. So that's, if you were fortunate enough to get a guy like that, let's say in the second round, and you were convinced by him, you might start him out at left guard, or at least give him a shot at right tackle, left guard. He's somebody I liked as far as run blocking. I was watching one of their games in 2021, and this speaks to how the level of competition thing. They were playing an 0-7 UConn team, and they were down 40. So it's not a small thing. But you're right, he does look the part, and I guess you'd have to just work him out and talk to him. We'll see. But I like what you said about moving up, because it just struck me as you were talking, Jason, that that could have been exactly what was going through DeCosta's mind as the Morgan Moses trade was going on. The idea of flipping 4th round picks being part of that trade, knowing that if they had to move up, they would probably, as you said, have to give up a 3. And then that Jets 4th rounder is what, like 12, 13 spots later. So it's essentially
113. So we picked it 93 as our 3rd, and then 113 is our 4th. So you're looking at 20 spots later, and to me at that part in the draft, EA, it's about the same. There's a lot of prospects that are the same.
Right. That's very interesting. I mean, yeah, that's certainly a possibility that they move a little bit.
So the reason I'm kind of in the favor for that as well is, like, you're in this rare spot where you could have a future left tackle drop to the mid to late 20s. It's like, man, you're picking at 30 and you can get your left tackle of the future that projects to be a good player at left tackle. Go ahead and get him, man. Like, to me, it would be worth that, missing the 3rd round pick. Maybe we can recoup, trade back later, whatever we want to do. But to me, getting a left tackle of the future is worth a 3rd round pick.
I think so. How far would you move?
I would say that you would need, well, looking at the JJ chart, it looks like about 4 spots, because the pick is worth about 100 points. I'll have to go back. Maybe I'll put it up on the screen to see how far that you have to move. And then when you're moving up in the 1st round, sometimes you have to include a little extra, because it's the 1st round and that kind of thing. But
right,
you could safely move up a few spots. Maybe 4 or 5 you'd have to throw in something extra, but you could safely move up 2 or 3 spots if Guyton's still hanging there and, you're like, okay, we can't take it anymore. The good thing I think for us is Detroit is picking right before us, and they have the best line in the league with all 5 starters lined up. So if it gets to Detroit, you have to wonder if somebody would want to, they would pass on the lineman, or maybe somebody would trade up and take their lineman, because Detroit is just a pretty stacked roster. They need some secondary help from what I saw. So let's get into some prospects here.
Okay.
EA gave me 5 names. So I want to play a little game here, EA. I'm going to read my scouting report, my little blurb about them, not the full report. and I'd just like you to respond to them. Now, the
Okay.
first player we have here is Brennan Jackson from Washington State. Not a lot of people are talking about him. Um, he is my 11th edge rusher overall. He is in the day 3 value column for me. So it would not surprise me if he goes on day 2, third round. He'd be a value there on day 3. I have him right now as player number 85 on my board. So I show him a lot of respect, Brennan Jackson out of Washington State. Here we go. EA, sack versus Jordan Morgan against Arizona. Saw. He had 3 fumble returns for touchdowns this year, which was maybe an anomaly, but you got to see his athleticism when you watch the highlights of him. You see him move around with the ball. You get an idea of what kind of beast he is at 6'4", 264. So he's a big, stocky edge. Ran a 4.69, though, so that kind of shows you what kind of athletic freak he is. Compact and powerful edge who has some juice. I like the way he attacked pullers with reckless abandon to shrink the running back space. He's able to keep his feet. Aggressive player overall. He does lack some length, but he charges his way through a tackle's chest. Doesn't take a snap off. There's not much mystery to his rush. He's one speed, full speed player. Won't threaten the edge with speed, but he'll pick a shoulder and run through it. And I saw him flash an occasional spin move. So EA, that's my report on Brennan Jackson. Could you respond to that, please? And maybe what do you miss? What do you disagree with? What do you want to back me up on? Anything that you got out of that?
Sure. I agree just about with everything. I noticed too how physical he is, taking on split zone blocks and aggressive at just squeezing that down. You see a lot of guys just in college not know what to do with that. He's quick off the ball. I've not seen a guy put out greater effort. I really like his size. I think he's somebody that you could. He put me in the mind of Jarrett Johnson. Has good closing speed in pursuit, and that speaks to the athleticism or the test numbers that you mentioned. He does need to add to his pass rush rep. He's got that bull rush. Like to see him work on some kind of push-pull, getting hands off of him. I think his get-off could be an advantage inside rushing the passer. I do like that he can set the edge. He strikes me as a very Ravensy kind of pick, just hair on fire, sets the edge. I think he fills out the outside linebacker room. I'm not sure where the heck he would go. You think maybe third, maybe fourth, something like that?
I think that I like him more than others because of what you said, him being a Ravens type player. Because the Ravens aren't going to take someone that, for lack of a better word, half effort on the run. And he's willing to be physical, sacrifice his body. He's got just a high motor. Like the last play I saw from a game would look most like the first play of the game. And that's saying something for these guys play a lot at the college level. There's not as much rotating. So I think he fits with the culture. And also just, the Ravens are known, and they've said it again, that size to them is important. They want the biggest, strongest team out there. And he is not a guy who's easily moved. So you get him in a room with Chuck Smith. You mentioned that, okay, the reason he's not going higher in these drafts is because he doesn't have a lot of moves. But for a 4th-round pick, maybe looking at him there, or, if he slips all the way to the 5th round, I think that would be great value. I have no idea where he's going to go, but having him at 85 on my board tells you, usually if I have somebody at 85 EA, that means he's going to be available much later than that, like 4th round, because you make your list specifically for the Ravens. So, right. So if he's a Ravens player, he's not going to be for everybody. It looks like our kind of guy, though.
He does. I like him quite a little bit. I thought about his effort and the idea of effort sacks and how prominent that was with the Ravens last year, and the back end coverages and the way those things are confusing, and how this guy never gives up. Something you mentioned about his fumble recoveries. The guy, it sort of finds him because he just spills his guts out there. That's the way I took it when I watched him. He's getting beat on the edge, and he looks up, he finds the football, and he just springs off the ground and picks up the fumble and scores. And he's just, that effort to me pays off in a way that you don't see all the time, because he's around the ball. He's almost like in pursuit, sometimes you almost see him as like an inside backer, just chasing, you know?
Right, or safety or something like that. And I'm going to add to a great point about effort. You know, we saw Kyle Hamilton with an excellent, one of the best effort plays you'll ever see, where a guy was lying on top of him, and he gets up and the ball gets deflected by Marlin, and he makes an interception. Like Brennan Jackson, I would say not only effort but his eyes. Like we talk about it in the run game, where he's able to see the puller, brace himself, give that puller give that puller to business, and then the running back has little space to squeeze through, has to alter his track. He's also sees through the rush really well. So when the ball's on the ground, he sees it, he knows it. He's one of the first people to see it, and the scoop and score come afterwards. You see his athleticism. So I really like him. I could see him going before some edge rushers. I could see myself having him right on the board as like a third round player, being correct on it. But like I said, it usually doesn't work like that. Teams get caught up in need. They draft other places. Corners start flying. Your guards start flying. Maybe there's a run on running backs in the third round, and they start going. And then all of a sudden, a player like Brennan Jackson sitting there at 113, or later in the fourth round, maybe even fifth round. So it never surprises me when we get that late. So next player on the list. Now, this guy was, I want to say, aside from the evaluations, EA, there's a fun to watch aspect to some of these guys. And Ray Davis out of Kentucky, the running back, he was one I would say fun watch. You know what I mean? Like if you just want to study a player, watch all his carries from a game, you'll enjoy watching Ray Davis. A little ball of fire, man. And I say little because he's 5'8", but he's also 211 pounds. So this guy has got some beef to him. Compact runner. Ran a 4.52. Now it's a track event, EA. I would say he plays a little bit faster than a 4.52, but I'm going to go ahead, give you my scouting report, and have you respond for me, okay?
Got it.
All right, so strong quickness flashes right away. So not just quickness, but quickness with strength. When he makes a move, if you're not going to get a clean hit on him, he's going to run right through your arm tackles. The jab step is what I really like, EA. He puts his foot in the ground, gets upfield quickly with that strong quickness. Compact, efficient movements. The play speed, I thought, like I said, was good in all facets, faster than a 4.52. And I thought he looked comfortable catching the ball. Creativity with the ball in his hand is also a strength. So he's got pretty good vision, and he'll twist, turn, and do what he can to get extra yards. I like his creativity. Lowers pads at the finish with helps add power. Active feet, look comfortable at the combine was my combine notes. The Florida game will make you a fan of his. My question in his game, and something I'm looking at for all these running backs. Me personally, I'm looking for a player who can play on third downs. I was not in love with his pass pro. I think that's going to be a challenge for him. It may take a year for him to get comfortable protecting the quarterback. He can catch the ball out of the backfield well, but that's the one thing that I worried that held him down on my list a little bit. Still, major respect for Davis on my board. I have him all the way up at running back number 6. And I've seen him drop in these drafts and get lost to like running back 10, running back 12. He's all the way up at running back 6 to me just because of his ability with the ball in his hands, which when it comes down to it is what you're drafting a running back for.
Yeah, he's somebody I really like. I have seen him drop. I've seen him down in the 5th round range, but I see him as a 3-down guy. To my eye, he's ready to go. That's one of the things I like about him. I think he'd make a year 1 impact. He does. They do need to coach him up a little bit in that he does turn his shoulder and not always square up in pass protection. But I thought he was very alert to assignment and to scheme where the rush was coming from. And he's kind of 50-50 on that in terms of squaring up. But I didn't see it as a lack of effort. I think he just needs to coach that. Sometimes he'll drop his shoulder and kind of sidearm the block. But I noticed him as effective against the college players in that regard. Thought he was very a good route running running back, 33 receptions. Did not think he had breakaway speed, but he's got a great lower half leg drive for yards after contact. Agree completely there. I've seen guys hit him right on the thigh and bounce off. To my mind, he's a good balance of being patient and decisive in terms of reading his blocks. He's a great second level, third level setup kind of reader, to my mind.
Right, speaks to that vision, and then that's where where the creativity comes in for me. Like, 'cause he can see that he's going to make this first guy miss, but he does it in a way where he's really setting up the second guy too, and that's where I like. And he's creative with it. It's unpredictable when he has the ball in his hand.
Yeah, he has sort of that. He also has sort of that Dobbins kind of effect in the backfield, where you think a tackle or a guard will get beat in 3 yards in the backfield, will make a miss. So he does have some small space make you miss. I think he's good between the tackles as well.
Me too. I'd see him as like a, something that I'm big on is we learned with Monken last year. He wants to throw a lot of different types of running plays with you. It's less, power, but we're still going to run power. We're going to throw in a lot of outside zone. We saw Gus struggle with that. I think that's why it was time. Why the Ravens felt it was time to move on from Gus. They wanted a back who can run a little bit of everything. I think Dobbins would have had a great year last year in that system. And Ray Davis, to me, with that quick, like being able to put the foot in the ground, the vision that you talked about, the ability to get upfield quickly, I think that he could run any type of scheme. Make you miss in the backfield, hit the hole hard, go towards the sideline with patience. I like him as a versatile back compared to some of the other backs that I kind of pigeonhole into, okay, he'd be better in this scheme or he'd be better in that scheme.
Agreed. That's a good point.
So, EA, last thoughts on Ray Davis out of Kentucky before we move on to another player. It sounds like we're on the same page, but you like this pass protection a little bit more than me. It's just it's a coaching issue.
I do, yeah. To me, he was like I said, he was pretty aware of his assignment. I could tell where they had him lined up. He could see where the rush was coming from, whether it was coming off the opposite edge, pre-snap. He could find that real readily. I liked some of the snaps a lot where I thought his technique was really good, and then at least half the time he would drop his head a little, drop to kind of turn his shoulder and try to shoulder the block. But I think that's something. I do think that's something he could be coached up pretty easily on.
Okay. See, I'm going to go back and watch that too, because he must have like turned me off enough to where I wrote that down as something I didn't like, but I did not specify whether it was like him having problems IDing it or if he just wasn't executing it well. So I'm going to trust you on that because I know that you've studied. Now, did you do a film study on any of these guys, Brennan Jackson or Ray Davis?
I've got one on Brennan and Ray.
Okay, so there you go, guys. I'll link that up down below. Check your channel after this. We'll put all of Edgar Allan's links in the description here, EA. So we'll hook you up with that so people can go check and you can show them what you're seeing. That would be great. Next up on the list. Now, you warm my heart with this one. I don't want to spend a lot of time with this guy because I've talked about him a lot on the channel, but I have to hear your perspective here too. He is my positional favorite at cornerback. EA, I got him all the way up at number 59 on my list. I might look like a fool for having him that high, but I think he fits what the Ravens want to do. That's Renardo Green out of Florida State. Absolutely love him because it's hard to find guys who can cover in man. I've noticed this the last couple of drafts, that with all this off coverage that we're seeing seep into the NFL, you're getting these bigger, longer, slower type corners who have good recognition in zone and can come up and make a play. Whereas Renardo Green is the type of guy. Remember the movie Hoosiers? Pretend he's a stick of gum and I want to know what flavor it is by the end of the day. That's the kind of player you get with Renardo Green. Change of direction, excellent. Just like the type of guy that you as a wide receiver, you don't want to go up against because he's going to make it a long day for you. I've said my piece on him many times, so I just want to, without the scouting report, what are your thoughts on Renardo Green?
I think he's everybody's favorite, man. Everybody loves Renardo, man. He's my favorite player in the draft. Something I found out about him. he started at, I think it was either 5 games or 7 games at safety his first year, which just he does understand route distribution, kind of pass offs in these man match concepts. Sticky, he's relaxed. He aligned more as a pure press corner than any corner in the game, college game last year. He's very, very smooth through bending routes and crosses, never panics. I saw him in versus who was it? Wake Forest. They tried to big boy him a little bit because he's a little frail, a little bit slight looking. You know, he's 6 foot 190, but it's a big receiver. Tried to box him out on a curl, and he wasn't having that. And he reached right around and poked it out. But he is a hip pocket. Follow you everywhere you go. You saw that with Neighbors.
Unbelievable game, by the way. That's what I point people to. Malik Neighbors going to be, probably a top 10 pick in this draft. And Renardo Green was asked to man up on him. EA. Yeah. Like, this wasn't like, okay, he's going to be in your area. Nah, that's your guy. One of the top picks in the draft, one of the best players in the draft. You go guard him. And Renardo Green really showed his stuff in that game.
Oh yeah. You could see in that game, there was a couple of instances where they would motion Neighbors one side to the other, false motion in the back, and Renardo's just running back and forth with him. It's going to break my heart when the Ravens don't take him.
Right.
Yeah, he just is he's a day one guy. He's versatile. He could play in the slot too, if you needed him to.
I think it might be a good spot for him because he's chippy in the run support too. Like that, I didn't know that he played safety, but I could see he's got that safety kind of attitude, like a toughness to him.
He can get bodied up in the end zone. I think he got beat twice on jump balls in the end zone. One was what's the guy from Pitt? There's a receiver. He was
Means, yeah.
That's it. He got him in the end zone. Out jumped him and out bodied him for the ball. But by and large, man, he's ready. And like I said, it'd make me pretty pleased if they got him, but I'm not sure they would.
So the two things with Green that I question, because I just love so much about him and the fact that he can play man and I can be comfortable. But turning and looking and finding the ball, to me, I didn't see hardly any of that. So that would be one knock I had on him. And the other thing is there's not a real good sample size. He played so much man that I don't have a good feel for his ability in zone. But if he played safety and you're saying that he has a good feel for those concepts, that makes me feel even better about him.
Yeah, I've seen him twice or a few times rather on film, kind of take a route in his zone, pass it off, make a call, pick up another route that was intended to kind of cross him up and make a tackle. But yeah, he's a great player. And it seems like all the Ravens film guys, I know Coach loves him. You love him. I
always get bummed out when, they're my guy and then other people pick up on him. Not Coach and all the other guys, but I'm talking about like the draft community as a whole. Because, I had him ridiculously high when he was like the 13th or 14th corner I watched. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? Why is he so low? And now everybody's warming up to him. And then also to comment, how you said it's going to break your heart when the Ravens don't take him. Yeah. Those are the kind of guys, EA, please don't go to 3 or 4 teams that I'm not going to name, because they always seem to get those guys too. The guys I really like. Just don't go to those teams, man. If you go to the NFC somewhere, if you're not going to come to Baltimore. So love that on Renardo Green. Again, EA's got a video on him. I'll go ahead and post that down below. So here's a player we haven't talked about on the channel yet. Glad you brought him up. Kitan Oladapo, Oregon State, 6'2", 216, offensive lineman-like arms at 32 3/8. He's a 6-year player. He's played a lot of ball. Excellent size, good play strength shows up. He's just a good football player overall. My two main concerns are lack of fluidity in his hips and lack of route anticipation in man. So I want to hear your thoughts on his hips and his anticipation in man first before I go any further.
I think that's a valid concern. Depending on the receiver, I think he's definitely capable enough to hang with a tight end in terms of size, in terms of basic coverage. That was the thing that really stood out to me when I watched him. They weren't shy about him in coverage, meaning Oklahoma State. He would cover everywhere, tight ends, slots. They'd put him out on the boundary. I guess against a slot, he'd cover running backs. So to be honest, I have not seen any kind of all 22 on him in terms of I know he's athletic and fast in terms of his range. And I think you mentioned route anticipation on the back end. I'm not 100% sold on that, but some of that just because I haven't been able to tell on film.
Okay. So yeah, it's anticipation for me. I think some of what you said is what I was going to speak to, is that a lot of times with these college players, they're playing out of position or a different position that they're going to play for the pros. So it could be a college tackle who has no chance of sticking a tackle at the NFL level. The NFL is going to want him to play guard or center. Some of this, like with the safeties from Georgia, both of them. Actually, excuse me, the safeties from Miami, both of them, James Williams and Cameron Kinchins. Both of those guys, neither one's a strong free safety. Somebody had to play free safety, and they got exposed in that end. But to me, they're great prospects because you play them closer to the line of scrimmage. Oladapo, the same kind of thing. I think he was asked to do maybe a little too much at Oregon State.
Yeah, he's definitely. If you watch him, your first thought is probably, okay, he's going to be more around the line of scrimmage because he plays the run great. Plays like a linebacker downhill. I just don't, like I said, I'm not 100% convinced about him on the back end, although they mixed him in, middle of the field, split field stuff. He was all over the place. Yeah, I'm not sure in terms of the back end, how you fit with the Ravens. And that's what it would boil down to. I think they're going to take a safety at some point. But it's going to have to be the guy that fits with what they want to do. So I'm not sure about him on the back end.
So I don't mind that he's a 6-year player, because when you start getting later in the draft, I'm not looking for guys that I'm going to sign to. I just want them to get through 4 years and be able to help the team. If it's a young tackle or a young quarterback is a prime example. Yeah, the younger, the better. There's development in his game. His game looks plenty developed to me, and like his body control stands out. You see, I saw on tape a lot of diving plays, getting at people's ankles, being able to have that type of body control. But like the overall quickness and like lack of twitch, like route runners, crafty ball carriers, that kind of thing, I could see giving him problems. But when he was in the bunch EA and guarding bunch formations, I did like his eye balance and his toughness. So a lot of this stuff coming to the boundary, a lot of the stuff that's directly in front of him, I like the way he was able to diagnose and finish those plays. And communication was evident to me pre-snap with him as well. Like he was the leader of that defense to me.
He was. It does seem like he was getting the, especially the back end set a lot of the time. Not sure where he goes in the draft. And I think there's some decent fits at safety for the Ravens. Who else have you watched that you think fits safety wise?
Well, I have a lot of guys. I actually like this middle round safety group to late round safety group. And it reminds me of some of the groups where like your Chuck Clark and your Anthony Levines and Deshaun Elliott's, go in the late rounds to undrafted. So that could very well be the case in this draft. Bo Braid out of Maryland, and I'm not a Maryland fan, by the way. So that's a totally unbiased evaluation. I liked him. Oladapo, I liked. Mustafa out of Wake Forest, I liked. Both of the Georgia safeties, I liked. Both of the Miami safeties, I liked. So I think that we're going to have plenty of players to choose from. Oladapo falls 11th or 11th on that list. So he's a player in my draftable categories. He's not back in that gray area where undrafted or day 3 at the earliest. He's a guy that I think that will go solidly like round 4, round 5, and I'd be comfortable taking him in any of that range if they like him better than some of the other safeties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so moving on, we have one more player to talk about, and EA, I kind of gave up where to put him on my board because he's hurt, and I don't know exactly where he ranks, where his health stands, but I liked him enough to where I put him as a day 3 value. So if he does get picked in the, the 3rd round or something, I wouldn't be surprised. It just depends on how his injury is. Obviously, we don't have privy to that information, EA, so I can just go off of what I know. But it's Michigan right guard, Zak Zinter out of Michigan. I said Michigan twice there, but that's okay. Broke his tibia and fibula versus Ohio State last season. Now, EA, are you a doctor, sir? I'm guessing you're not.
No.
Well, broken tibia and fibula still sounds pretty painful to me, sir.
No, that's not a good thing.
I love him as a football player. You look at Andrew Voorhees, who the Ravens were smart enough to jump back in and get him. I think Zinter, same kind of tape as far as it's like day 2 all day tape to me. What did you think as far as like, okay, if Zak Zinter's healthy, where would he go?
Round wise?
Yeah.
Second or third. Yeah.
Right. So like Voorhees was a year ago then.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Zak a lot. He did say in an interview that he'd be ready to go in a month. Those were his words. I think I read that a couple weeks ago. Not sure if that's just talk or he's close but yeah, he's one of my favorite players for the Ravens. I think he's one of the best pullers in the class, which is saying something because he's not overly athletic. Just has really good footwork depending on the type of pull they want him to go through. Oh gosh, I just saw some guy walk by me with a Steelers jacket on. That's a bad sign. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's talk about one of your least favorite players then. No, just kidding. But yeah, the short pulls, bro. He identifies people in those short pulls.
Yes, he does.
In a short area, is what I've really liked about him. So, I think he's got like star guard type capability. Like you want to put him at right guard, have him handle the Matabikes of the league on other teams, the star 3 techs. I think he can do that. But if you want to run left-handed and ask him to pull, especially on those short pulls, I really liked his vision, being able to identify guys and get a body on them.
Yeah, he's unusual, at least for the college game. Like I said, especially he's not. I don't think he's the greatest athlete side to side, but he's got great footwork on short pulls and on the counters. He finds somebody, he gets on the right shoulder. He's got great leg drive once he fits him up. I like him in pass protection. I think he might have a hard time in recovery if somebody beats him, crosses his face and beats him. But I'm with you. I think he's got super solid starting guard upside potential, pretty quickly.
Me too.
If he's right.
He's very polished. And you know what I will say about the leg breaks, those are 2 serious injuries. I think Andrews had the tibia, when he was hip drag tackled. But ACLs, Achilles, sometimes those things can linger a lot longer than a broken bone, as painful as it is. Those things heal, tighten up, and you're good. You're as good as new. So hopefully he can come back pretty quickly to full form. Now, what I loved about him too, I thought that his ability to stay attached in the run game, in the pass game, was near top of the class. Like his hands must be strong, man, because once he gets a hold of you, he's able to run his feet and stay attached. I just love that about him. His technique is good, like you were saying, one of the more polished players. His hands keep working through the whistle. Another thing I like about him, EA, 6'6", 309. Being taller doesn't seem to affect his anchor. Like guys have a hard time uprooting him, which again, to me, speaks to how technically sound he is.
Yeah, he's got a quick second step. I wrote down quick off the ball, quick gets his second foot down quickly. great on double teams. I thought he was as good as anybody I watched in terms of timing and coming off and when to come off and when not to come off. And some of that's Michigan, those guys
Right.
being coached so well on the O line. But
But also that we saw a lot of examples of that too. Like Michigan's one of those teams that'll run on short yardage. So we got to see Zak Zinter fire off the
yes,
ball in some of these like crucial situations. Like, okay, it's 3rd and 2 and we need it. We're going to run it. They know we're going to run it. Again, for a taller player at 6'6", to be able to come off the ball that low and get that kind of movement, again, was rare to me. And I think Blake Corum, the running back, really benefited from having him and the other guy, Keegan, in this draft, Trevor Keegan. Those guards really did a lot of work.
Jason, I wrote down something similar. I said he's a short yardage power wrecking ball. Just when they need to get over the goal line, he'll hit anything that moves. Playing, he gets under people and he moves people.
So EA, this is a player that, because it wasn't like Voorhees, where Voorhees got hurt at the combine and we knew he wasn't going to be available this year. We knew it was going to be a red shirt. With Zak Zinter and it being a broken bone, yeah, it happened kind of later in the season, 2 broken bones. But if he's ready for training camp and his tape is as good as both of us see, I mean, could you see somebody picking him in like the 3rd round still, like the injury never happened?
I can't see him going too much later than that. I mean, even if you have to wait on him, I can't see him getting out of the 4th. Depending on the medicals. I mean, he's a starting NFL guard. There's no question.
Right.
I can't. If the Ravens took him in the 3rd round, I'd be great with that. But again, we don't know how healthy he is. But I can't imagine he's that far off. It just depends how desperate you are or how needy you are at what positions, I guess. But I still don't see him getting out of the 4th, but I do see him getting mocked lower than that. So
me too. So I had no idea where to put him. I put him at the very end of my value picks, day 2 pick / if he's there on day 3, go get him. I had no idea where to put him because of the medical. So he's sitting there in that blue column, EA, which is when it comes down to it. For those of you looking on the screen right now, those players in the blue and the players that are higher than them, those 106 players, that's pretty much my draft board, EA. Like I want to get as many of those 106 players as possible. And from doing this for over 25 years, I can tell you, EA, if you mark 100 some players, there's going to be a few guys left over when it comes round 5, round 6, round 7, even where you like them more than the consensus, or maybe there's off field stuff you don't know about, or maybe there's injuries that you don't know about. But trust me, like you can get through a draft with 100 and some players listed and be able to draft from that list. You don't need 257 players to go into a draft.
You think they're going to hold on to those 7th round picks, or do you think they're going to try to move some of the late picks?
I think they would like to move them. I think we've seen in the recent past guys like Ben Bredesen, Tyree Phillips, Sean Wade, maybe somebody else I'm forgetting, but that right there is 3 guys already where we didn't have enough room for them. We traded them because somebody was going to have to get cut. So like to me, I know a lot of people, and being a draft guy, I value picks, but like to me, there's a limit. I mean, if you're going to draft 9 guys, do you want to draft 9 guys? Do you have room for all 9 to make the team? Even when the injuries start setting in, that kind of thing. So I think ultimately they would like to trade up, maybe get an extra pick next year in the 6th round or what have you, trade one of those 7th round picks for a 6th rounder next year, or 5th round pick for a 4th rounder next year. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that things start thinning out right around the 5th round. There's some corners I like that are later than that, but and then there's always a guy like a Michael Pierce kind of dangling around that goes undrafted or goes in the 7th round. What was the guy we drafted, the D-line, not Zinter,
the guy from the Dolphins, Zak Zinter.
That's it, Sealer. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, EA, as we start wrapping up here, like your final thoughts on this draft, like do you have any goals for the Ravens going to this draft? Expectations. Like, I'm going to leave the floor completely open to you. And like, if you're just me and you talking at a bar and I'm saying, all right, EA, what do you think about this draft, man? What's going to happen? What are your thoughts on this?
My preference is for them not to draft. I would like them to see the Ravens draft the best player available in round one. That's the to me the main thing. I don't want to see them reach on a tackle. That's generally what I look for. I enjoy them, the sort of surprise picks that they get. I'd like to get a corner that can start. I think they're of late, especially the Ravens have been drafting for the future. It seems a year ahead, so that's why the receiver, the tackle, and the corner position are probably rounds 1, 2, and 3 in various orders. That's one of the things I'm expecting. Very curious to see what they do, just like everybody in round 1. I'd like to see the offensive line get strong in the middle, not just at the edges. I'd like to see them put really, really good guard play around Linderbaum. Yeah, I'm a defense guy too, Jason. If left to my own devices, I'd probably pick mostly the defense. It's terrible, but
I'm a man after my own heart. It's hard, it's hard to grow up a Ravens fan and not have a soft spot. I mean, let's be serious here. Like, that 2006 team still stands out as like one of my favorite teams of all time, with the organized chaos defense and Rex Ryan and all that. Jared Johnson, one of the guys you brought up earlier, and all those pieces, So I can't help it. But for this draft, EA, I'm going to say we need to build the offense. I feel like our defense is still going to be okay. Like, we need pieces for the future, but we really need to shore up that O line. I feel like if we said this many times on the channel up in this process, protect Lamar, we're going to be okay.
Let me ask you one question, Jason, because I haven't watched the first round receivers. Probably, I'm sure not as much as you have. If they do go wide receiver at 30, who would you like to see?
So I like A.D. Mitchell. Report came out recently of his diabetes, and teams are scared off of him. To me, he's the X receiver that could replace Bateman in the near future. I love his size, and he's 6'2", 2 something, but his specialty is route running, and you just don't usually see that. Him losing guys at the top of the route, it's impressive to me. After that, I like Lad McConkey. I really do. If you get a chance to watch him, EA, go ahead and do it. You're talking about all those corners in the SEC, and he's beaten pretty much every single one of them. Route runner, I kind of compare him a little bit to Jerry Jeudy. Other people compare him to Zay. I don't think he has the get up and go that Zay does, even though he ran a 4.39. I don't think that's his field speed, but he's got that attention to detail in his routes like Jerry Jeudy. So those are two guys I think that I love in space that can separate and create space. And then, Keon Coleman, I think that he's not going to go that high at 30. Xavier Worthy would be interested, the fastest man in the draft, fastest time 40 in the modern era at 4.21. He can also run routes. So, like I was saying, yeah, I feel like a lot of these players are getting pushed back because of all the offensive linemen. And I feel like if you're talking about BPA, then at the end of the day, it might be receiver.
Right. Yeah. I think that if they, like, as you just said, the best player available is likely to be a receiver, I think there. And certainly the first year impact, the biggest impact first year, to my mind. I can't see them. Graham Bart, you think they would? Barton's not going to be there, but they would. I don't know if they would consider drafting him or not.
I would hope they do. I would hope they do. Yeah, give him a chance at tackle. If not, you got yourself a guard that can take over when Cleveland leaves, or if you have injuries this year, maybe he's better than Voorhees or Cleveland. Like, I loved him as a player.
Yeah, me too.
So EA, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate this. It's a thrill, man, to have you on the channel. Have you ever gone on anybody else's channel?
I did Ken McCusick a few years ago, but that was a few years ago.
All right. Well, Ken's not a bad guy to come in second to my friend Ken McCusick. Shout out to him. Yes, I just wanted to thank you so much, though. I really appreciate it, man. This was a thrill to me. Like I said, watch your channel, help inspire me. My buddy sitting next to me on the couch saying, man, you could do this. You should do that. Get your life back together. You got all this free time. Go ahead and start a YouTube channel. You can do what Edgar Allan's doing. And here I am with Edgar Allan, man.
No, thank you so much, Jason, for having me on. It's definitely really fun. I'm glad you talked me into it, and I'm so happy to be able to talk football with you, man.
Yeah, hey, look, before the season starts, training camp, I'm gonna ask you again. I'll bug you again. But usually the 2 times a year I have people on is before the draft and then before the season when training camps, all these positions are moving. We're trying to guess, who's going to start, who's going to make the team, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, easy to talk ball, man. I love it.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to say thank you to my football family. I love my football family. Appreciate everybody here watching. Draft coverage Thursday on the channel for day 1. Also be back day 2. Got some really good guests. Got the guys from the Ravens Way coming on. Got the guys from the Ravens Situation Room coming on. And we got Dev and Nikhil Mehta from Battle Plans on Russell Street coming on. So we are going to have great guests here on the program. EA, if you're not streaming, make sure you tune in. And Coach DC will have something going on too, so you might have to switch back and forth.
Sounds good. I'll be looking forward to it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Good night. EA, please say good night to the people, and please check out Edgar Allan's videos.
Oh, thanks a lot again to Jason for having me on, man. And really appreciate the people that just come and watch the film breakdowns that I do. I don't really ask for subscriptions or likes, but I love comments. So if you're watching them and you have anything you want to get off your chest about the tape or the players, that always gives me a great thrill to read, and I'm very grateful for those.
Thank you, everybody. You have a good night. Thanks, EA.
Thanks.